Join us now to discuss what can be done to save South Africa's municipalities from total collapse is Danga Mughogho, Program Manager for Well-Governed Cities at the South African Cities Network, and Revenue and Local Government Specialist Miyelani Holeni, who's also Group Chief Advisor at Newzroom Consulting. Gentlemen, good evening, and thank you very much for your time and for joining us today here on In Focus. Miyelani, let me start with you. I mean, do you get a sense that there is some kind of renewed invigoration towards doing what is right? I mean, the numbers are still dismal. Make no mistake, 16% receiving a clean audit is not anything to be happy about. But is there some kind of movement?
I think certainly from the oversight and the auditing capabilities that the AG has brought onto the table, I think we're seeing a game changer. Right from when the AG was going after new powers, to be able to at least bring accountability or book the people that were transgressing or municipalities. We are seeing an accountability matrix, which is at least bringing everyone to be focused such that they can start improving. I think 41 clean audits is showing good signs. However, more municipalities need to pull out of the qualified range as well as the disclaimer range so that we can then believe that the system of local government is indeed working, but working for the people, that is.
Yeah. Talk about that disclaimer range a little bit. I mean, the Auditor-General makes an example of they took a sample of just 10, and 4 out of the 10 actually could kind of like make some kind of point to say, no, this is where we paid. They could follow the money and say, oh, okay, this is where it went, and begin their investigation as to find out exactly whether it was done appropriately. But the 6, they had bank statements that were not even properly identifying where the money is going. I mean, that's just simple accounting. Why are we failing to do just that simple bit?
I think the basis of it is that there is malicious compliance. But in this case, I think we can also guess that there's malice in terms of deliberately concealing some of the records that are there. So in essence, you are looking for people who are going to take responsibility, and ultimately the accounting officer should be the one who is at least brought to book to be able to point out, where the information is. Because all of these things, when you are called an accounting officer, you are the last person standing. And you are the one who at least must be marshalling all of the troops to drive the accountability. The local government is a legislated space, highly legislated for that matter. But there's also clarity and guidance with respect to all of the statutes that must be followed, especially around financial management. So the case in point is the accountability of the accounting officers needs to be brought into book so that all of the forces or all of the people within the municipality are pushed into a place where each one does and plays their role according to what their job descriptions are and delivers the services that are required.
Yeah. Danga, there's someone saying the 41, it's good, at least they can account. But some critique is that is setting the bar too low. I mean, basically what you're saying, great, you've got great accounting, but maybe we should be setting the bar a little bit higher for those municipalities as well. That it's just not good and well that you can show me the account that this is where the money went. But in as far as looking at how many jobs you've created, what the services are, how you've improved infrastructure and so on and so forth, that needs to be an audit all on its own.
Yes, that's correct. And just to add to the comments that my colleague has made, I mean, it's very important, of course, to keep basic financial controls in place, and that the chief, the officials responsible, the accounting officer, the municipal manager, the mayor, as well as the council, must be accountable and, in fact, must exercise oversight over the administration and the finances of the administration. And as you say, the bar has been set fairly low, unfortunately, because of the years and years of continued poor performance. I think the AG was at pains to indicate that they had identified in particular the role of political and leadership in municipalities in terms of maintaining the controls. So the tone comes from the very top, where we expect accountable, transparent, ethical leadership leadership with integrity that then insists, therefore, that the employees within the administration meet the requirements of the Auditor-General, which are at base. I mean, we can say the audit is just an accounting exercise and that it's something just for, only accountants would be interested in. And to a certain extent, perhaps that may be true. But as you said, the bigger picture is that what are the municipalities in existence for? And they're in existence to transform the lives of residents who live within them. And the only baseline from which you can reasonably expect to do that is from having a clean, unqualified audit.
Yeah. The use of consultants, is that something that should necessarily be frowned upon, understanding the lack of capacity or capabilities within the state? 1.26 billion to help improve financial reporting of municipalities. Is that something bad?
I mean, it's something that has come about as a necessity in many cases, and the Auditor-General has pointed out that municipalities say they use financial consultants because they don't have that capacity in-house, which is one thing. But what's interesting is that the Auditor-General also finds that where those financial consultants have been used, the results haven't necessarily, or rather the municipality hasn't seen necessarily an improved financial performance or indeed achieved a better audit outcome as a result. So a quite sizable number, so which makes you realize that actually the problem is deeper than getting someone to work on your books, that indeed it is a systemic problem that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. And from yourself, Miyelani, I mean, one hospital being used here as an example in the Eastern Cape that paid a consultant 34 million for a vet submission. I mean, shoo.
Yeah, I think from our perspective is that some of the municipalities in do not have the kind of skills that are required, but it's also irresponsible of municipalities to wait until right at the end to be able to call a consultant to come and compile information when the information should have been kept in chronology of how the events were taking place. So I would then say there's good use of consultants and there's also poor use of consultants. What should consultants be doing in this space? They should be creating capacity, bringing in best practice, bringing in the training and capacitation, or at least helping the staff that are there. What should the municipality do? They must fill all the vacancies and, of course, fill the vacancies with skilled and competent individuals who are going to be performing the jobs and are going to be the ones directing how the work must be carried out. And consultants are there to add the extra value and to add, the other aspects which municipalities are lacking. And it can happen, for instance, that municipalities or a particular municipality does not have a technical manager. In that case, you can use temporarily the skills of a consultant to drive the designs and various things that must be done within municipalities. And that can happen within the finance space. So the issue of use of consultants must be distinguished between poor use of consultants as well as good use of consultants. And in most organizations, I think, we can even go and ask at the AG, do they use consultants? They'll say yes. And how do they use consultants? To add value to the various things that they do and create capacity going forward.
Yeah. Overall, what does that then say about what is lacking in this accountability ecosystem that the AG pointed out, particularly on the side of support, intervention and oversight? And these would include your provincial leadership, these would include your parliaments and provincial legislatures and so on and so forth.
I think to come in, the reality that the AG is now exercising its powers granted to it by Parliament, that is a reality that most people must sit back and say, if I'm going to accept a role of being an executive mayor or being an MMC for finance or being an accounting officer, I need to really take seriously my responsibilities. I need to take seriously the job at hand. And I must not be found wanting, because it could happen that I will be issued with a certificate of debt if I'm not responsible or derelict of my duties. And that is the reality. So that is bringing all of the might of the law as well as bordering on the law enforcement side to be able to correct what municipalities. So it's clear that municipalities require a lot of support from a whole lot of stakeholders, and it seems that it's not able to carry out that transformation from internally. So let's use the likes of the AG, let's use the likes of the other bodies to be able to clean up what is has inherently gone wrong within the municipalities, such that they can find a new leaf. And we're hopeful that at least with this sort of information coming to the fore, with the detail that is being described, someone is watching. And it's about time that people will then sit back and say, we need to do the right things and be able to help the municipalities and think more about the citizen than narrow interests.
More on the accountability ecosystem when we continue next here on In Focus. Danga, Mughogho, as well as Miyelani Holeni staying with us. And of course, In Focus continues in a moment. Back with you tonight here on In Focus, the accountability at municipalities. What is the missing link? Danga Mughogho with us, as well as Miyelani Holeni, Group Chief Advisor at Ndiso Consulting, going through those numbers as we were given by the Auditor-General a little bit earlier on. Danga, what is missing in the accountability ecosystem? We know we've already spoken about as far as leadership and decision makers are concerned, but what about the oversight and support and the interventions at that level? Is it only enforcement by the Auditor-General that is going to be the answer here?
I think not just enforcement, but an important element of accountability is the top-down accountability, which you just mentioned, coming from the AG, and also oversight from the province and also national government. But also a very important area is bottom-up accountability. We are all citizens who live in municipalities. We have wall-to-wall municipalities across the country. And it's very important, and indeed the Auditor-General says in this report, the report is intended not just for people with an interest in the state of our municipalities, but for citizens, and particularly civil society organizations, who can then demand through their elected representatives, whether through ward committees or through proportional representation councillors within council, to demand accountability. So that's where accountability and transparency are bedfellows. So where we have transparency in the accounts and in the financial statements of a municipality, individual citizens or indeed organizations can raise these issues with council, which is responsible for oversight of the executive. So it's very important, in fact, to stress that local government, our administrations, our elected representatives exist to serve citizens. And citizens need to be reminded, in fact, that as responsible citizens, as part of that system, it is our duty to, in fact, hold our representatives accountable for the promises that they make.
Yeah. So are you saying then it would be the duty of the citizens, for example, to hold premiers accountable, to hold the cooperative governance departments accountable for playing their support and oversight role?
Well, very much so. I mean, I think the primary instrument of accountability from a citizen's point of view is elections. So that's the main instrument, periodic elections, whether for national or in the local sphere. So the election is a chance for residents to actually say whether they feel that of the previous administrative term, the people they elected to office did in fact achieve the promises they said when they were initially elected. So that's the primary means of accountability. But between elections, there are processes around integrated development plans at the local level, at which consultations take place between municipalities and citizen groups, and updates are provided on annual progress towards service delivery and budget implementation plans, which are the annual breakdown of the IDP, if you will. So there are opportunities for citizens to make inputs there, but also citizens can directly contact their representatives and ask for accountability around specific issues that they believe they have an interest in. And we would very much encourage, I think, and indeed the Constitution encourages citizens to be active in that way.
Yeah. Miyelani, I think you have watched these ones quite closely for a while now. What is failing, particularly in these two provinces, Free State and the Northwest, that it's just seemingly not getting any better?
Yeah, I think the two provinces have unfortunately suffered, I think, what would call a leadership crisis, which, you can dissect it in many different ways. But we've seen a number of municipalities, and we can give examples where the governance was weakened. And that's a key point around where governance is weakened, whether it's from the political sphere or from the administrative sphere, but where processes are not being followed, where clearly the MFMA is disregarded, and the blurring of lines in terms of the roles and responsibilities, where certain people rise to become much more powerful or above what the legislation at least allows for them to be. So in that case, you will find such matters where everyone else acts as in a laissez-faire fashion. Everyone does whatever. So if governance breaks down, you don't have control of what how things must happen. And that is largely a problem in these areas. We can count the likes of Mafube, we can count the likes of Malutia Pofung, and you can also go into the likes of Ngaka Mudiri and various municipalities that have faced such unfortunate incidents of breakdown in governance. And of course, breakdown in governance is also precipitated from whether the officials are not strong enough with regards to their understanding of the legislation. Their skills perhaps are sometimes in question, because you also find that in those areas, the vacancies are high and there's a number of people who are acting within positions. So in essence, they are not the office bearers or the rightful people in those positions, but they are acting in such a case. And you find that, they are then coerced in some cases to approve certain things which they would otherwise not have been approved based on the positions that they hold, or sometimes with a promise that you will rise and ascend to this particular position. So there are a number of factors that are not even visible to some of our eyes, and what happens within those various municipalities that we need to deal firmly with through a very strong governance model.
Gentlemen, we appreciate your time, and thank you very much for your interventions here this evening on In Focus. That is Danga Mughogho from the South African Cities Network and Revenue and Local Government Specialist, Miyelani Holeni.